Hello, my Nevermore Hollow psychos. This is Lafayette Faust. Welcome back to another episode of True Tales from Nevermore Hollows. Tonight, we conclude our first interview with Brother John Fike, a friend of the show who came on and shared his experiences with us when he entered a haunted asylum. Now, if you'll remember from the first part of this interview, he entered that asylum as a skeptic, but he left it as a believer. With that, I invite you to sit back, turn on a light, and prepare yourself.
Got my attention.
Yeah.
You've almost got me. You've almost got me convinced.
Right.
Do it again. It does it again while I'm in the room.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay,
All right.
I believe.
Yeah.
I believe you now. I was in the room with it. I heard it.
And you were, it's just you and the entity at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. You got no other thing that you can do but believe it at that moment.
Right. Everybody else, and that was all on video. Everybody else at the same time was up in the attic, 3 floors above me. There was nobody else in that basement but me.
Right.
So I run and I find everybody. I'm like, you guys got to listen to this. I had some crap happen down here. So they had done their Estes experiments upstairs. They didn't get much up there. Just like I had said, there were too many people. When I went back through a lot of that footage, it was useless because everybody was talking and laughing, and that was pretty much junk. But so they had finished those Estes experiments, and now after that, we're down to about 7 people.
Yeah.
7 or 8. 3 of the guys, they were walking around with an app on their phone, an SLS app. That's the one that does the little stick figure things that you see in these. And they're walking around using that, and it's got a voice recorder on it. And in one of the rooms, there was a chess or checkerboard set up, and they start provoking, which we had said we weren't going to provoke anything. We were going to be respectful. They kind of went off and did their own thing.
Yeah.
And they provoked, and the pieces flew off of the game board.
So did that get caught on video?
Just on audio.
Oh,
they were looking at something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put a disclaimer on this. I wasn't part of this group. I wasn't in the room. This was reported to me. Okay.
Right. But still, we do know that entities like to be sneaky like that, just from the corner of your vision or just behind you. So go ahead, Chris.
But you don't walk in somebody else's house and pick a fight.
Right.
They showed them, if I love these shows where they start provoking, and when something happens, they all flip out and run out. Right. You asked, for it. John asked it to do something, and he didn't scream and run out. He actually, do it again.
Right.
And it's that right there. I don't know. I have had experiences like that, and it's you don't know what you're going to do in that situation. But I'm too big to run, so I'm just going to sit there. And now I'm old, so I'm just going to sit there and see what's going to happen. But that's pretty cool, man. And the metallic sound where there's not any metallic surfaces, that freaks me out. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
But, John is he's approaching it as a dialogue where these other guys are, like you said, they're challenging. And, same here. I want to, I'm a seeker of truth, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I've got some entity pissed off at me.
Well, it's like that lady who worked in the kitchen, and they say that she's still active there. I wonder if you asked her permission, if you could, if you were going to hang out in the kitchen, if you asked her permission, if she would probably maybe communicate with you because you were polite enough to ask to go into a place that was hers for such a long time.
Good point.
And when we were in the kitchen, we were specifically talking to her. Like, we would ask her questions,
Yeah, and that was good because that was her area. I've heard on a lot of these shows where they talk about specific spirits being in, this is their area, and if you don't acknowledge, they're going to do something to make you acknowledge them. And in a place like that, which it's kind of like a warehouse, they just parked people in there and left them. That there's got to be stains, of people, that that's where they were just existing, and that's stuff like that permeates into the building. And
not only that, I mean, you had murders, you had sexual assaults,
exactly.
beatings. In the one room, they actually had a jail cell.
Oh,
and
did they?
Yeah, like where they would put people that got violent or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was mental illness that they, in the 1800s, they didn't help anybody. The cures for mental illness, they were worse than having the illness.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So, and with that, this is another thing I didn't see. It was reported to me, and it was with that SLS camera. One guy was sitting on the cot that's inside this jail cell, and one of the stick figures popped up next to him.
Oh,
and
no.
He said he felt the bed sink as this thing sat down next to him. And I'm trying to get him to come on my show. I'm this close to convincing him to come on and tell that little story, but we're trying.
That happened to a friend of mine in his apartment.
Oh, really?
He had an old leather couch, and it was like stiff, and he was sitting there, and something sat down. He said the cushion indented, and I'm like, "What'd you do?" He said, "Well, I'm watching this. If you don't like it, you can leave." And then it got up and left, and like, yeah, you'd have to clean out where I was sitting. I'm sorry.
Right. I mean, I don't know if that really wasn't a challenge, though. That's just dude. This is what it is.
Yeah,
You're either going to watch
my
it with me or
house,
you're
I'm
not.
watching that. Yeah, but and
Right.
it was an apartment. It was an apartment complex, and it was a fairly old one. It was, I think at the time it's about 30 years old. But I've had experiences. I used to work in a factory that no longer exists. And the buildings at the time were at least 150 years old. And they had built an outside staircase that was metal stairs, and they had enclosed it against the weather. And me and another coworker were coming down the steps, and then somebody was coming down the steps behind us. And we thought that they needed us, so we waited at the bottom, and the sound of them coming feet coming down the stairs stopped where we were standing. And it was, ding, ding. And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "It's quitting time. We're going to leave."
Right.
I'm not going back upstairs, But yeah, it's interesting where people, work, if they've worked there all their lives, or if they've in that situation where that building was, where they were parked there. I believe that there's something left over, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I think something's there.
Yeah. So like I said, those last couple things, those were just reported to me. Those SLS apps on your phones, they don't record very much. I don't have any proof of any of that. It was just what was reported to me.
Right.
So let me ask you this question though, since you say that. I mean, I can vouch for Chris. If Chris says something happened, I know Chris. I trust Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is not prone to making stuff like that up. I know you now. I feel comfortable saying if John says he had an experience, he had an experience. How do you feel about this guy who said it sat next to him? Do you feel like there was some credibility there?
The one who said it sat down next to him, absolutely believing.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
The guy with the chess pieces, it's a crapshoot. I'm just being honest here. I
understood.
But again, that brings credibility to your story, John.
Yeah.
I just hope that the guy that I'm talking about doesn't see this, because he might be mad, but it's okay because he's a little guy. Well, I don't care.
We are now in 64 countries, 1,313 cities. So you never know.
Yeah,
he might be watching. So,
is it in Munchkin Land?
Oh wow,
good question. I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that.
Now I hope he sees it, because he'll know who I'm talking about now.
Gotcha. So, but no, but what I say, when that brings credibility to your story, that shows your approach. You're like, hey, I can't speak to that. This one guy, yes, he brings credibility because I know him. This other guy, because of who he is, he might have just been, shooting the breeze with us a bit. But that's why I wanted to have you on, is because that's your approach, and I like your approach, and it brings credibility. And people who are listening to this, they're going to come away more thoughtful instead of going, that he was just trying to get on the show. So anyway, so go ahead.
Being stupid. How come everybody hunts ghosts at night?
That's a good question, but it's a lot freakier. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to scare yourself, but I've always wondered that. Why do you hunt ghosts at night? And I've asked several people who were on these shows, because I see them at conventions, and I ask them that, and they all just look blankly at me, and they're like, "I don't know."
I would say the only reason why I kind of believe it is because of the thinning of the veil between midnight, 3 o'clock.
I was getting ready to go there. Yeah. Good point.
That's the only reason I can see it. But I mean, I've heard it on my show. This stuff happens all day long. Ghosts don't have they're not on the circadian rhythm that I am.
Right.
And I've had those experiences too. I've had paranormal experiences at night, and I've had them in the middle of the day. They're both creepy. They're both creepy, but they are creepier at night.
There was a ghost hunting group in Tennessee that had a television show that was pretty good, and somebody asked them how come. Yeah, I've met a couple of those guys. They're pretty cool. And somebody asked them, "Why do you hunt ghosts in the winter?" And they were, "So there ain't no bugs and there ain't no snakes."
Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't like to sweat, so
no, me either. Dude, when I was younger, me and my buddies, we would go to haunted houses and haunted caves and haunted this and haunted that, and we would sweat our tails off, even because we're in the South, right?
Right.
we're in deep south here, and even in the fall, it can be sweaty at night, and
yeah. No,
but but we
no,
chose
it
to
was
do it at night
still
for two reasons.
80
One, it was
degrees.
right. It was 80 degrees instead of 90 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And it was just cooler to do it at night.
My papa
So what?
always told me when he was a kid that when they would travel, they couldn't afford, they didn't have a car, so they'd walk. He said they'd always sleep in cemeteries at night. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, ain't nobody gonna bother you.
Well,
He
that's
said,
true.
and he said the sleeping on the slabs, the granite slabs were cooler.
Huh.
And I said, yeah, no, no.
So,
I've seen too
Chris,
many movies. No.
you realize that we talk about inspiration as creatives. It comes from crazy places. Already tonight, when you said the stain, the ghost is a stain, that triggered
Yeah.
a Nevermore Hollow story idea.
Okay.
And now
Cool,
sleeping
cool.
on the slab in a graveyard, that's triggered an idea for a story. So already we've got stories generating here for season. What season? It'd be season 5, won't it? Next 12th
Yeah, I
birthday,
think
season
so.
5. Yeah.
So
So anyway. All right, so all right, so back on, our sparkly squirrels have been running around for a few minutes. So get back. So John.
Well, this is how all of my shows go. It like there's a track, but my train is all terrain. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, okay, we'll get back on track here. So at about 3:00 in the morning, everybody but 5 of us leaves. We needed to allow our batteries for our cameras to fully recharge, and we kind of needed a break. So we took all of the cassette style cameras, and this place does have electricity. Like you can turn the lights on, but there's no heat.
Okay.
But there's no heat in the 90% of it. The only part that's heated is that front area where the caretakers lived.
yeah.
That's only because the people that own it now, it's just cheaper just to heat that part.
Yeah,
Back when it
57
was
something thousand square feet. That's a big electric bill.
right. And I think they had boiler heat when the place was in operation. So anyway, we decided to take. I really want to say it was either 5 or 7 of those cassette style cameras, and I should have done better research on this, but I do everything seat of my pants. Anyway, we set them up. We set up those cameras as static cameras in the basement, and we knew how long it would take to recharge our batteries. We knew it would take roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours for everything to be totally charged. So we're like, okay, we'll leave those static cameras run for an hour and 15. We'll go down and pick them up. By the time we get everything back up here, our regular cameras should be ready.
Yeah.
So when I went back through all that footage, which was even harder because, it's not digital. I had to, hook it up. I didn't want to download all of that information onto my computer. So I watched it on a TV first. And then if I found something, I did have the capability of transferring it over to digital. But so there was one camera that caught some noises. And at one point, something hits the camera. It, like, you hear it hit the microphone. And if you watch, there is a slight wobble to the camera when it happens.
Okay.
Nobody's down there. Like we tried to be as professional as possible. We had camera pointed at each one of the doors, so everybody could see that, we weren't screwing with this stuff. Cameras showed other cameras. You could see everything.
Okay.
But something hit that camera. I don't know what it was. You didn't see anything. And by the way it hit the microphone, it had to have hit it in the front, because the microphone was on the front, and it's not one of those detached. It was just a little grate in the front of the camera.
Right.
So something had to actually hit the front of that camera for it to hear that. So that was weird.
Huh.
So we get done, our batteries are charged, and we're down there picking up these cameras. The camera that got hit was the one closest to the door where we had to come in and out to go into the basement.
Uh-huh.
So we left that one run the longest because we wanted everything to be, documented. Just we were trying to be professional. We were not professionals, but we were trying to be.
Right.
So that is the very last camera we're going to pick up. This camera was pointed down the hallway towards the kitchen. We picked up all the cameras all the way around. We had, I think, 1 or 2 cameras in the kitchen itself. One pointed into the room where I heard the banging. And then another camera just in the kitchen pointed back towards that camera that got hit. And none of them had IR lights on them. They had just regular incandescent, whatever you want to call it. So we've picked up every camera except for one. The entire time we had audio recorders. They ran whether we were investigating or not. We left them run 12, 15 hours. So that was a lot to go through too.
Yeah.
And we had three audio recorders that ran that entire time. That right there was 45 hours.
Yeah, you came loaded for bear. I mean, it sounds like you came to try to get the best possible evidence so that you could draw realistic conclusions.
Correct. So I have my audio recorder on me. It's myself, 2 of my coworkers, and then a friend of ours and her husband. And they had talked, the couple had talked about doing their own solo investigation in the basement because we'd had some weird things happen down there. And you can hear me on the audio, and not only, you can't hear the conversation on the camera, but you hear it on my audio recorder. I asked this couple, hey, are you guys staying down here now, or are you coming back down? If so, I'll leave you the audio recorder, something like that, something along those lines. And she says, no, I think we're going to come upstairs first. And about that time, a rock comes out of the darkness and hits the cabinet next to my leg and then bounces off my foot.
Wow.
And you hear me say, and that was the other thing. We tried to keep everything PG, just like I do on my show.
Right.
It took a lot not to say the F word here. I was like, what the hell was that? Or something along those lines, or what the hell?
Right.
And you can hear on the audio of the camera that's probably, I don't know, 50 to 75 feet away. You can hear the rock hit the cabinet. You can hear this ticking sound. And then on the audio recorder, it's loud. I mean, you hear it. And the woman that I was talking to, she actually witnessed the rock come out of the darkness into the light of my headlamp. And then, after I heard it hit, I looked down and I see this rock rolling away.
So there was clearly escalation throughout the night of going from just, the guy thinking that he was, out of body to, possibly, the sounds, which we know that's not possible. That was literally happening, to the possibly of the chess pieces, to ultimately a rock. I mean, it's escalating throughout the night. And, that
Yep.
tracks too, because, sometimes as you're in there, these things get more and more comfortable and bold as you're interacting with them. That's fascinating. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, but were there rocks anywhere around down there?
Good question.
There probably could have been along the foundation and stuff like that. But the floor in there was tile.
Okay,
So
they had to go get a rock.
Right.
could have been, but it was small enough that it could have been dragged in on somebody's shoe.
Yeah,
Okay.
but still.
Yeah, I mean, it literally came out of the darkness. I mean, and that's the thing. You can see the other two guys. They're headed down to that camera to pick it up. The last camera.
Right.
They were headed down the hallway to get that. And then us three were standing there looking at each other.
Yeah.
So everybody's accounted for. When this
that was
happens,
my next question. I was getting ready to ask how was everybody accounted for in that? So there was nobody else that could have tossed that rock.
Correct. All 5 people were accounted for at that time. 2 guys walking towards the camera, me and that other couple standing there talking to each other.
So now at this point, the hair on my arms would have been standing up. I would have had the chills down my spine, the cold running blood. I mean, because at that point, there's no other explanation at all. I mean, already you've had the noises, but now this is a physical manifestation of something happening. So at this point, did you feel threatened, or do you feel like it was a playful entity?
That's a good question. To me, I just okay, that was the icing on the cake. Ghosts are real.
Yep.
To me, that's what I took it as, is okay, I made the noises, had some other weird stuff going. Now I'm going to show you.
Right.
Ghosts are real. And that's how I took it. It was like, okay, it's time for John to believe. And so,
well,
and that wasn't the end of
fascinating. Right. I mean, already that's fascinating. So many occurrences in that one night that helped take you from a skeptic who was there to try to disprove it, but curious, to suddenly, oh, you know what, man, there's no way I can disprove, I have to put this into my worldview.
Right. Rock did. I mean, that rock flying across the room, there is no other explanation. I mean, there's nobody else in the building. Mm-hmm. Rocks don't just get up and fly. So what does that leave? And like when you talk about me being the skeptic, when they were doing the Estes experiments up in the attic, I had all that stuff happen in the basement. Well, one of the guys was like, man, we had some stuff going on up there too. You need to go up there and investigate, because I wanted to keep doing it alone. Yeah. So I went up to the attic. He's like, man, there's this tricycle up there. Just like in the movie Saw, you can hear it squeaking as it's moving, but it's not moving.
Gee whiz.
So I go up there, and sure enough, there's a tricycle. There's a little rocking chair, and I hear squeaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's freaky. I walk over to the tricycle, and I look up because I'm hearing this sound above me. And there's a vent with that rotates, like you see in barns.
Right.
And that was making the sound.
All right. So you disproved it. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, that's what you guys are hearing. You get yourself freaked out, and that's long before the rock throwing or anything like that. Right. So, I was still
I can see how that would freak you out. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was still in full out, this stuff isn't real. but that
So
changed it all.
if I can ask
After that.
you at that point, being a skeptic, see, because I had paranormal experiences from an early age, so my whole adult life I've just accepted it, and it's part of my worldview. It's how it's how I move around my day to day, just knowing that there's a spirit realm. And of course, my approach is that the spirit realm is filled with things that want to rob us of our souls. But with you being an adult at this point, and then experiencing this, can kind of walk us through that paradigm shift that you had when you said, I've got to accept this, because some people struggle with that, even with it
Yeah.
right in their faces, they struggle with it. So did you struggle?
The evidence was there. I mean, I just I was an open-minded skeptic. It wasn't that this stuff doesn't exist and
Right.
you've got to change my mind. It was, okay, I've seen enough and heard enough stories that there's something going on. But I just haven't seen it myself. So I was open to the possibility of this stuff, and it showed itself and proved it to me. So at that point, it was like, okay.
Yeah, you're a logical enough man to go, all right, well, this is what it is now. So Madman, one of the things that I find interesting about that is, we've talked before about, if you're open to the idea of this, you're going to be presented with things. Things are going to realize, hey, this is an open mind, a flexible mind, is what you and I've been using recently, from stealing that from Larry Correa and his wonderful Monster Hunter books. But I think because John had a flexible mind, where I'm going with this thought here is that I almost believe, after hearing his story, is that these entities were revealing themselves specifically to him because of his open mind, that they realized he was the guy there that we've got to show. Everybody else was just superfluous at that moment, but it was John that we want to reach out to.
Yeah, I agree. He wasn't flipping out. He asked them to do something and they did it. He everybody else was freaking out over a noise. He debunked it. I think lots of times that they are a level-headed person and an open-minded person is that they'll maybe do more too, because they're not being able to scare them away.
Right.
A lot of these shows that I've watched, a lot of them, especially with the Ghost Hunters show, they would say, well, if you want us to leave, make this noise and we'll leave. And then the noise is made and they're like, okay, we're going to keep our word. We're going to walk out, and they leave, and so that shows what type of people that they are. And I think John, he showed them that I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to flip out, but I want I want to see what you got.
Right.
And he wasn't rude. He wasn't, yelling at them or picking a fight or anything like that. And I think, especially where he was, these people had a hard life. And if somebody shows them respect, then I think they'll reveal more.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. It's funny that you mentioned that, because during the night, after the rock was being thrown, that couple that I was talking to, she actually said, no, we're not going to do a solo now. We're just going to follow you around, because everything's going to be revolving around you. So,
yeah, that's a good observation, Chris. I think that's what was happening, is that these entities realized that John was there seeking truth. So there was some sort of interaction that, clearly these weren't. I think all entities like that, I know I'm going to take flack from this, but I think all entities like that are evil entities. They may present themselves as benign. That's just my worldview on it. But I do think that these entities were reaching out to him because they knew that he had that flexible mind.
Yeah. I don't understand ghosts, and I'm not even going to attempt to. It's.
I got a cramp in my leg. Oh my God!
Sorry, dude.
It's that evil entity. Look, I said it was an evil
see?
entity. It showed up. It's got him now.
Got him by the leg.
So for those of you who will be listening, literally right on cue, John starts getting hammered with phantom pains and cramps.
Wow. Okay, I think it's gone.
Right.
Evil spirits, get out.
Yeah, be gone. All right, so we had our first exorcism on the show. So, all right, so
your character wears a mullet. If you can find one of those Ernest Ainsley wigs, you could probably, that'd probably help out.
Right.
I might have one actually. I've probably got 10 or 15 wigs. It's ridiculous. I've got a problem.
So we're coming up on an hour and a half now. So if you're okay, I would like to I mean, I'm sure there's more we could go, but I'd like to kind of take us in a little bit of another direction before we run out of time. So I guess to transition, let's talk a little bit about and to lighten the mood just for a few moments. Let's talk about how did you come up with John Cougar Methenkamp?
Well, actually, same group of guys that I was going ghost hunting with. One of the guys, we were pretty close, and we worked literally side by side. He bought this fake mullet, just like I wear. A little different design on the top, but he brought it into work one day, and we were all, putting it on, taking pictures, and so I had mentioned at some point that when I was a younger man, that I had dated a much older woman, and I already kind of had the moniker Cougar Hunter.
Oh, Lord.
And so I put this mullet on, and he says, John Cougar Hunter Mellencamp. And I was like, it's more like Methenkamp. Yeah. And it stuck. And
it's just one of those moments of inspiration where everything came together, because I think it's a brilliant character. It really is.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
So, we're sitting there back and forth, and at first this whole thing was supposed to be me and this other guy, and I just kind of, he didn't get into it as much as I did, I guess, and I ran with it. I started coming up with the backstories, and I started, just driving home from work, I'd throw this freaking mullet on, and stream of consciousness just started telling these stories that I was making up on the fly. And if you find my original, very first video as John Methenkamp, I was literally driving to my daughter's ball game, which was an hour away.
Right.
And I just start talking. And the video, I want to say it's like 40 minutes long. I don't know, something about that, something around there. There's literally 2 cuts in the entire thing. And one of them was because I started laughing and I had to stop for a second. But the other one was because I got a phone call. But other than that, I'd literally stayed in character for 40 freaking minutes. And just made up this whole Methenkamp thing.
Cool.
Right.
And that's
why you were so
and that's how I do
in
all my
character.
videos.
Yeah, I love it. Because I even reached out to you and I asked you. I said, "This has the feeling as if it's off the cuff, but
Yeah.
not, when it's off the cuff, it felt natural. Is where I'm going with it. So I was asking you offline over the last few weeks. I'm like, "Do you script this?" You went, "No, I have a couple ideas, so I just riff it." And I used to write comedy for a living, and I was telling you, I was building you up. It's comedy is hard. So when it comes that easy, it just makes me want to choke you, but it also makes me want to, just watch more of what you got.
Now that's not to say that like I won't come up with an entire video in my head, but as far as writing it down or even knowing like every line for the video, no. I sit down, I know where I want to go with the video, and it just comes out. That's how I do it.
That's
So
cool.
you did a riff on Madman here a couple of weeks back, and when you sent it to me, I was listening to it, where you met. The gist is that you met Madman when he was a young man, and you basically taught him. Chris is an amazing artist, and you basically kind of taught him how to be an artist. But when you said I didn't know it was his mom, I lost it, dude. I lost it,
man.
and my like, "What are you laughing at?" And I went, "You just got to hear it." And I played it for her, and she was like, "Does that not make Chris mad?" And I went, "No, this is dude stuff."
Oh, but see, it was so. And I've told him before, his humor is so dry, and it's just, it's just this guy's just matter of fact telling this story, and that's what makes it so good. And I was out of town, and my boss had rented us a house to stay in, and I'm the only one up, and I'm trying to stifle these laughs. I'm sitting in the kitchen and just hee hawing, and it was great. It was awesome, and I loved it, and I love the character, and it's I see things animated. So yeah, I can see the Cougar Hunter as some type of kind of like Johnny Bravo type cartoon,
Yeah.
But
You're literally you're the center of your own universe, and that's the thing. Timing in comedy is everything. It's everything, and the fact that you are so deep into that character and you're delivering it so dryly. That's the special timing you've got on that, because your delivery is so dry and so right on time. That's what makes it funny, because you're not watching a guy who is playing a character. Like I said, when I first met you that day, the way you and your wife walked up to me, I thought that was a real you. I was like, what a Yahoo! This guy's hysterical, but I was like, this guy's in his own world. And then when through a series of events, Chris goes, "No, dude, that's a character," and I went, "It's a character?" And then I had to go back and start watching your stuff more closely. And then when I had a conversation with you, like I said, I'm just repeating what I said earlier, and I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's an intelligent man. He's not, because when you came across that day was just John Cougar Method Camp, just this dude that's just running around trying to find hot older women, and that's literally all he wants to do for his life.
I've been doing comic conventions for a long time, like 14 years, and Alan's not done them as much as I have. So, there's things that I've seen at comic convention I just, I don't pay attention to.
Right.
So, whether you were in character or not, I was just like, yeah, okay, that's another dude. And and then you're like, check out my stuff. So I checked it out. I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. He's hilarious.
I appreciate that.
And I think, that's a type of character though that would do great at conventions, walking around.
Yes.
Just messing with people. There are people who do that for a living, But they usually dress up, as superheroes or whatever. But that type of character right there, man, that would I would follow you and video just you just commenting on to people. That would be hilarious.
Because look, I went at the Chattacon. My son and I had a table at Chattacon, and I'm pitching the show, and he's pitching his comic book. And at one point, I know just enough about. I mean, if it's superhero stuff, comic book stuff, I've got it all day long. If it's sci-fi stuff, I got it. If it's horror stuff, I got it. But some of the Japanese stuff, I get a little lost in because there's so many. So I was sitting there at the table, and I had misquoted one. I said, "Oh, you're so and so," and they will correct you quickly if you get it wrong. And so I just started on purpose being wrong. Right. And I was so tickled. And my son was like, we need to record that. So then I was thinking, I can't do that because I'm trying to pitch the show. And then when I met you, I was like, I was thinking what Chris, I was like, dude, if you took the John Cougar Methenkamp guy and had him doing that with on top of the John Cougar Methenkamp stuff, it would be brilliant, dude. You would have people paying you to take pictures. You'd have people, and you'd have all this content that you could put on YouTube. You could have all these shorts, man. I'm telling you, there's something.
We give nicknames to the fringe at conventions. We have had Yard Sale Darth Vader.
Yes.
There was a guy who was wearing like a professional wrestling outfit, like a luchador type mask.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have been wearing any of that.
No.
But I've also seen a guy who goes around and does the Macho Man, and I mean he is dead on perfect. But as like Alan was talking about with the anime stuff, I've gotten it wrong, man. You talk about they have no sense of humor.
No, they take it so seriously. They put so much time into it. I mean, some of these, their costumes are amazing, and they get totally in that character. But to kind of turn that back to already what we're talking about, he's already kind of started doing that. Some of your videos from the Bigfoot convention up there, you are already doing that. But to put you in a con situation where you're there, that would be such your element, dude. I'm telling you. And you need to be thinking about it.
We need to set you up at a con, with like the movie stars, the people, and just because they want an autograph, and I would love to see that. I would love to just how many people would get their picture made with you,
right?
Just
At Chattacon, they had some folks from. I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show guy. I love that show. I had guys telling me, "Dude, watch it," and I'm like, "I'm not watching that. It's a chick thing." Well, man, when I started watching it, it's brilliant. It knows what it is.
Good.
I love Buffy. So I became a huge nerd of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? So they had some of the actors and actresses at Chattacon there. I would have loved to have seen John Cougar Methenkamp hit on Charisma Carpenter. I would have loved to see John Cougar Methenkamp try to get them. Hey, you want to go back to my trailer and do whatever?
Yeah, the look on her face would be priceless.
It would be brilliant. I'm telling you, it would be absolutely brilliant. Or for him to walk up to some of these furries, for you to walk up to a furry as John Cougar Methenkamp, and how would John Cougar Methenkamp navigate a furry?
Oh man,
we got to do that. This got to be something that has
So look,
I don't know. I would have to think about that one a little bit, but normally it's just how my brain works. I see something, it pops in my head, and it comes out of my mouth. I call it diarrhea of the mouth, because it, like, I just say it. I don't care.
So on
and
these
that's
cons,
the funny part.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the funny part, and that's what makes it feel real, right? So how we could do this, Chris, is going forward when we have a con that we know that he could show up as,
Yeah.
in his character. We just get him a lanyard. He's part of the Nevermore Hollows,
Right.
Black Sheep
Right.
Studios. That's it. That's how you get in without having to pay anything, because
Right.
otherwise it could get kind of pricey. And you just show up with your lanyard that says Nevermore Hollows, Black Sheep Studios, and you go do John Cougar Meth and Camp stuff.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Because there's always somebody at these cons that cancels. I just want to take over the table space and have him sitting back there with you. Have your picture made with the cougar hunter.
That's right.
Okay.
Because you would literally have people going, I have no effing clue who this is, but they would show up to get your picture taken anyway.